Next, we're going to look at how Toolbox can help you trying to figure out which area or roadway outdoor luminaire would be best for your project. For this kind of luminaire, there are 3 tools in Photometric Toolbox that will be useful here: the road report, the template generator, and the compare tool. So let's go to Toolbox. I'm going to select ZL Road LED 150 and unselect those fluorescent luminaires. And then I'm going to click on the button for Road Report, which is this one. Now, as I mentioned with the indoor report, a road report will open for each luminaire that has a check mark in the box. I only had one checked, so one report opened. And the information contained here on the Summary tab is somewhat different than what we saw in the indoor report. So here we see such things as IS classification and longitudinal classification. And let's see what else we have. We have upward waste light ratio. And way down here, if anybody cares, we have cutoff classification. Now, notice that NA is displayed here for cutoff classification for the cutoff category because this is an LED luminaire. And because it's an LED luminaire, it was tested with absolute photometry, which is the protocol. Now, luminaire's cutoff category is based on its lamp lumens, which are not defined for luminaires tested with absolute photometry. In absolute photometry, only the luminaire lumens, the luminaire is tested as a whole. The lamp isn't tested separately. And so we don't know what the lamp lumens are, and so without lamp lumens, we can't figure out what the cutoff classification would be, at least not based on the actual definition of cutoff. And this is one of the reasons that the bug rating system is so much better than the cutoff categories as a way to describe outdoor luminaires. Upward waste light ratio I mentioned a moment ago, UWLR, that's an Australian metric, and it indicates the percentage of uplight for the luminaire in its installed position. And here on the right-hand side, this is the luminaire classification system, or LCS, all the gory details, the amount of light in all the various zones, and the bug rating. Bug ratings are part of LCS. So the bug rating for this luminaire happens to be B2U1G2. Bug rating is not dependent on lamp lumens. It's derived from the luminaire lumens, and the luminaire lumens are calculated from the candela values in the photometric report. This slide shows the way the luminaire classification system, or LCS, describes and categorizes the light output from luminaires. In case you aren't already familiar with bug ratings, bug, B-U-G, stands for backlight, uplight, and glare. The bug rating system has replaced the old cutoff system, and it's defined in TM 1511 from the IES. We also offer a webinar from time to time called AGI, LCS, and Bug, oh my, which describes the LCS and bug ratings and how to incorporate this information into your outdoor lighting projects in AGI 32. So, as with the indoor report, we can see the complete table of intensity values on the Candela Array tab. There's a bunch of zeros, right? That must be the uplight. Here we are, some real numbers for the downlight portions of the beam. Roadway luminaires have their own kind of coefficient of utilization, or CU, which you see here as a graph, along with flux distribution information, which indicates the total amount of lights falling street side and house side with respect to the luminaire. And we have polar curves, as you might expect. On the isolines tab, we can see the pattern of light on the ground in foot candles or lux. To change the units, you click on the setting button. Well, first of all, let me show you. It says foot candles over here, right? And it says the mounting height basis in feet. To change the units, click here on the settings button. And on the ISO Candela tab, this is where we can select feet or meters, and where we can select foot candles or lux right here. Now, the luminaire is located right here at this point. This is 0. Wherever it says over here, house side, street side. Street side is the front of the luminaire. House side is behind the luminaire. So this is half of the distribution on actually what is the left side of the luminaire. To the left of the luminaire is right here. The graph distances along the side here and across the bottom here, these are multiples of the luminaire's mounting height. You've probably seen graphs similar to this in manufacturers' catalogs. In Photometric Toolbox, we can change the mounting height here, And then, so I'm going to change it to 30 and then replot. And then we get a new graph generated for that mounting height. On the LCS tab, here we can see the LCS zonal information displayed graphically. We see the candela values here on the concentric rings. So the outermost ring is the maximum candela, I'm sorry, not candela values. These are lumen values. So the zone with the highest number of lumens is this one apparently, and it reaches to the outermost ring, and there's no need to make the circle any bigger than that. So the outermost ring is the ring that has the most, is based on the zone that has the most lumens. And by default, this graph is based on the maximum LCS value, as you can see here. And we can change the values down here. Right now we're showing Luminaire lumens. It's showing for the various LCS zones, the number of lumens in each of those zones. But if I select % Luminaire lumens, then it'll show me the % Luminaire lumens for this Luminaire. Are you old enough to remember ISO illuminance templates? They were kind of like this ISO illuminance plot here, except that the whole distribution was shown. Back in the olden days, you would take a papered template drawn at the scale of your project drawing and lay the template on the plans to determine the coverage for one luminaire. Laying out a bunch of them with appropriate overlap, you could lay out your parking lot or street. Well, you can still generate a template in that way if you really want to. You can do other things too with Photometric Toolbox's Template Generator tool. That's this button right here. Now, the templates that you generate with this tool are useful for more than just creating paper layouts on paper plans. Who does that anymore? As you can see, this is a similar idea to what we saw on the ISO lines tab of the road report a couple of minutes ago. But there are a couple of features here that distinguish the template generator from the old paper templates. One is that you can set the scale right here to whatever works for you and your project. So right now it's set at 30. What if I want to set it at 35, right? Or what if I want to set it at 40? So I can set it at some different number. Maybe 30 is a good number for the scale. And that means that each of these tick marks or lines in here is the equivalent of 30 feet distance. And the luminaire is here in the middle. You can also set the luminaire's mounting height. This is based on a mounting height of 10, which is pretty low. So what if I want to set this mounting height to be 40, for example? Okay, so now the distribution, this is the distribution on the ground for a 40-foot mounting height for this luminaire based on a scale where each of these squares is 30 feet on a side. I can't really see the luminaire symbol in there, so I'm going to increase this luminaire symbol right here. If I make it go up to 3 or 4, it makes it a little bit bigger. It's like a little arrow, and well, that's what it looks like. And then down over here, it's a little bit hard to see, but you can see it a little bit better right now than you could before. And notice that you can set the ISO illuminance curves to any values. It doesn't have to be the values that are shown here, and you can change any of these colors. You just click in the color, pick a different one, and go. One of the most useful things that you can generate a template for is for any, doesn't have to be for single luminaires, it can be for multiple ones. So if I pick here 4 at 90 degrees, right, so this is a template now for 4 luminaires, 90 degrees apart, all on one pole. This is its template. You can also change the location, mounting height, this would be XYZ location, orient, tilt, roll, spin, everything for each of the individual luminaires on the pole by just changing the values in here. So the number 1 luminaire has an orient of 0, so that's the one that's here pointed to the right or to east. This is 0 degrees over here. So if I put in a tilt for that of 20 and then replot, so now I have a slightly different shaped curve because I tilted one of the luminaires 20 degrees. Have you ever wondered what would be the optimum mounting height for a luminaire? Let's say you have you want to have a minimum of 0.5 foot candles. As you raise the mounting height, that ISO illuminance line moves farther away from the pole, but not indefinitely. At a certain point, the luminaire is too high, and raising it further causes the 0.5 foot candle ISO line to move back in towards the pole. So what's that optimum distance that would enable you to have your poles the greatest distance apart? You could do this the hard way by trial and error, just trying different mounting heights until you find the optimal one. But if you want to save time, click on the Optimize Mounting Height button down here. Set the value that you're interested in. So I'm going to type in 0.5 as the value that I want. I want to know where that is. I want to optimize the height of the pole based on getting 0.5 foot candles as far away from the pole as possible, reaching the farthest as possible. And then I click on the Optimize Now button, and it tells me that the optimized mounting height now is going to be 52 feet. And if I click OK, then that value is returned here, showing mounting height, and then it's graphed. The graph over here is updated for that. And one more thing that might be useful in the template tool, by clicking on the DXF button over here, you can export the template as a DXF file that can then be brought into your CAD software. You just enter a file name and click OK. So now let's say you want to compare 2 or 3 luminaires in order to determine which one might be better for your design. As we saw with the indoor luminaires, Photometric Toolbox's Compare Photometric Files tool is great for that. First, we need to have 2 luminaires in order to make a comparison. So I'm going to select another one from the Zelux sample Instabase. I'm going to select ZL Road 2 here and click OK and close. Now I should have told you before I close that this is actually a 400 watt metal halide luminaire, and it's a type 3, which the original one, the ZL Road LED 150 is also a type 3. And remember, the luminaires in the Zelux sample Instabase are not real. We use them in our tutorials and training classes. And also, as we'll see, there's a big difference in light output between the 2 that I'm selecting. But I'm selecting them for that reason, so that the differences stand out more for this demonstration. So we'll put checkboxes in the 2 that we want to compare, and then click the Compare Tool button. Now, as with the indoor luminaires, we can select the basis for comparison here. I have a lot of choices. I've got dark sky, so I have a lot of choices with outdoor luminaires at least. We have dark sky reports. All the fields that are selected here would be, well, they're pre-selected based on the kind of information you might be interested in for a dark sky comparison, or I can select LCS report, which has all the LCS zone details. Notice that the fields that are based on lamp lumens, say NA for the LED fixture, but that's okay. In that case, we don't know the lamp lumens, but we can certainly compare luminaire lumens in the various zones for the 2 fixtures. And I can see that bug rating isn't showing here. Oh, it is showing here. That's because I did this before and I forgot to fix it. But normally it wouldn't be showing here, so let's pretend it's not. I'm going to click on Report Setup, and normally bug rating, let's just say we didn't want it to show, right? If it's normally it would be not be checked. If I put a check mark in here, then it adds it to the list over here, and this is the list that'll show. Okay, so normally the LCS one doesn't show, but it's easy to add it in over here. And then if I want to move it up or down on the list, I click the move item up or down depending on what I want to do. Now if I want my LCS report to include bug rating the next time that I run this comparison, then I would click the OK button here. And by clicking the reset button here, that sets everything back to factory settings. See, that's what I should have done before I started this, because I did it once before and I forgot to reset it. But it's easy to get back to factory settings by clicking reset. And also, maybe I want to save this report under a new name rather than changing the existing one. And I would just type in the new name here, right here, and click Save. So given all those options, I'm going to click OK. Right? So it says Save, yes. And there's also a road report option. And this report includes all the kinds of things that you might be interested in for a roadway type of project. Now, as you've probably noticed, there's some overlap between these reports. The LCS information is included by default in all of them. And as we saw, you can add categories for comparison or remove them, creating a custom report that suits your needs. Here on the 2D Compare tool, Again, I can see the polar plots for the luminaires, just like we saw when we compared the two indoor fixtures. And on the 3D plot, now I can see the three-dimensional array, the photometric web. This is showing it in a solid format. And you can see these luminaires are quite different, right? I did that on purpose so that you'd be able to really see the differences here. It's kind of like, well, it's not really like comparing apples and oranges, is it? It's kind of like comparing bananas and bigger bananas.